Hi, everybody. You're very welcome to this talk on the submission process and a bit of information on the portfolios. My name is Ronan O'Mahila. I'm head of faculty here of Film, Art and Creative Technologies. With me today is John Montaigne, who's one of our senior lecturers here and is also the man behind the scenes who helps us with the Awards Force platform. And also we have Robin and Sean from admissions who will be answering questions and doing all sorts of bits and pieces. Before we begin properly, I'm just giving everyone a chance to get into the room. But just to flag, we're going to be recording this, if that's okay with everybody. Just so it's available on the website so that people can look back on it, or if you want to look back at it later. I always find it funny. Why would anyone want to listen to me talk at all? I always find that kind of funny. So, but anyway, never mind. Please, if that's any issue, please let us know. But we are going to be recording that. So just to be aware of that. So we'll begin now in 2 seconds. So Sean, are we recording now?
Yes, we are.
Thumbs up. Brilliant. Thank you, Sean. So there's a few more people arriving in. So I'm just going to give it another second. There'll probably be people coming in all the time. And just to say again, hello, and you're very welcome to our portfolio masterclass and chat about the submissions process on the awards platform. But specifically, what we're here to do today is to give you advice on the portfolio process, but in particular, how the digital portfolio platform works and how it is to, what it's like to put together a submission and how you go through that whole process. It's live as we speak, portfolio.iudt.ie, and we're here to give you some advice and give you some examples and show you how that works. But I'm going to give a bit of a run through of just some top line information around portfolios as well. But please, if you have any questions, as I said before, my name is Ronan O'Mahila. I'm head of faculty. I have a good overview, I think, of all the portfolios, but with me as well is John Montaigne, who's one of our senior lecturers and is the person who really helps in the background with the awards platform, but also Robin McGuire and Sean Enriquez, and both our colleagues who work in the admissions office and really help as well with you. And, we're very keen to help you with your portfolio. We're very keen to help you make this as smooth as we possibly can as a process. And that's what we're here to do today. But, please by ask any questions, stop us, or the chat is there as well. If you want to just pop in questions as we're going, as they come to your mind, please pop them in. We're not going to answer them all the time. We'll stop every now and then and answer some of your questions. And I'm sure Sean and Robin and indeed John will be answering as we go as well. So, it's a pretty fluid situation. So just to begin, I'm going to share my screen and share our presentation. So let me just give you a start to do that. And I need to share screen, so let me do that. Share. And I think I'm sharing screen. Can Sean or Robin, could somebody give me a thumbs up? Brilliant. Okay, we'll just fly through this. You've probably been and hopefully have been to a portfolio talk on your program of choice or the programs you're interested in. So I'm going to give you a very big overview. Some of you may have been to Open Day and you may have heard bits of this before, but again, we'll try and go through this quickly because I know you're probably more interested in the processes around that. But first thing to talk about is when we talk about portfolios generally, what we're looking for is the best of you. It's about you. It's about you showing us what you're interested in, what you love about the kind of creative practice you're interested in, and that you really have an opportunity to showcase the best of your abilities, your interests, your passions for whatever creative practice you're interested in. So obviously portfolios come across multiple different programs, not in all our discipline areas. Art and design, particularly film and media, stand out, but there are some of our technology programs, for example, creative music production needs a portfolio, but that's a slightly different one. There's also an audition for the music strand, and But in business, humanities, and psychology, there aren't portfolios. So there's a lot of other programs there as well that you could look at that don't require a portfolio. Game design, for example, creative computing. So that you may be interested in a creative practice, but creativity actually infuses a lot of what we do here, and a lot of and the types of programs we have are very applied. They're very focused on giving you those skills that allow you to get a job down the future and really enjoy the practice that the person you want to be. Because a lot of creative skills and being creative is, if you look at LinkedIn, Forbes, all these kinds of resources, having creative skills are actually really, really important in any walk of life. So that's something that's really, really important as well. So what is a portfolio? As I say, it's a collection of work that showcases your passions, interests, and abilities. So we're really interested in what it is, what you're interested in, the kinds of things you've done, the kinds of creative work you've done, your levels of curiosity. It's about curation and choice. So it's about the pieces that you choose to show us, how you structure them, how you put them together. That's as much important in a way as the work itself. We love to see the process. So that's why we ask for notebooks and background information and background detail that gives us an idea about the process you've gone through to arrive at a piece of work. So have you done some test images? Have you done some test practice work? Have you been collecting samples of fabrics, of textures, of colors, all these kinds of things? And all that kind of background stuff really illustrates the energy and enthusiasm you might bring to your portfolio. And in a way, you're telling a story. You're telling the story of you. You're telling the story of your creative practice. The levels of invention, your motivations, all these kinds of things in terms of what it is in a portfolio. Some tips. We like to see a portfolio, obviously, that demonstrates visual skills, creativity, that motivation you have, the inventiveness, experimentation, flexibility, and stylistic variation. Now, technical ability is obviously important, your ability to draw or your ability to make work or whatever it might be, but it really is trumped, by a creative streak, that you're trying things, you're really pushing your own boundaries. Like, we understand you're only starting out, we understand that this is possibly new to you, but are you trying to figure things out? Are you trying to work stuff out? And that's really, really important. And we're really looking for people who have that unique and original creative streak with a passion for making in all its forms, really, and that you love making creative work, I guess. It's important with the portfolio that it's organized. A table of content is really important, and that can form, that can be one element of your portfolio as you present it. We'll come to how you do that now in a second. Present work that's clear, as cleanly and oh, that's a typo, isn't it? Clearly and cleanly. Oh, it's not a typo. And I keep stressing this because bear in mind that we're going to be going through a lot of portfolios. So help us to help you. Tables of contents and clearly well laid out work that have labels and explanations and these kinds of things help us to understand what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and in what way. Work can be finished and work in progress, and that's about that process piece. Please include stuff that you're doing on courses and in school. But again, we'd love to see what is your own work. It's about really, what did you do? What part of this, especially if you're in a project work, what part or role did you play in that project? We love to see stuff that happens outside of your course and school work as well, because that shows you're not just doing it in school, you're doing it at home, and you really love doing that type of work. We look for a personal statement as part of the process. We might come back to that later when we show it to you on the platform. But again, that's about you telling us your story. Work is used, you show us work basically through photographs. Their PDFs or JPEGs are the best file extensions. I'm sure John will come back to these kinds of advice, but include sketchbooks, videos as links. Private YouTube links really work really well, or Vimeo links. Look at the program specific requirements on the website portfolio. If you just search for portfolios on the RTT website, I'm sure we'll put the link into the chat, but there is on our website a lot of information. There's a booklet there on portfolios that gives you a lot of information what each program wants for those specific programs. So there are particular requirements for programs, but you can use the material for multiple entries. But as John will stress in a second, you have to make separate submissions for programs. So if you're applying for art and you're applying for design for film and photography, you need to do one for each. You can use the same material or a mix of the same material for each of those programs, but you must make separate applications for each program. Observational drawing is really important for lots of programs, and particularly those in art and design, but across the board, really. And just to flag that links to cloud drives can be really, really tricky. They can be hard to access. And we've often had situations that when we do go back to people and say, can you give us the passwords or give us access to this? But beware of those kind of cloud-based drives where you have to have sort of permissions like G Drive and those kinds of things, where you have to have permission to access them, because lots of different people will be looking at it. So it's not enough to just leave it as a shareable link. All of these things are there as a way of helping us to help you. So some key dates. Obviously, we're in the middle of the spotlight sessions at the moment. There's lots of those on, and they're going to go on for another week. You have to apply via the CAO. If you're applying for a portfolio program, these are called restricted programs in the CAO, and you have to apply before the 1st of February to be able to get to be able to apply at all. If you don't apply before the 1st of February, we can't help you after that. That's the deadline for restricted programs. One thing we say, and this is where Robin and Sean will really come in, but it's important to put that, even if you're half thinking about art or design for film or photography or television or whatever it might be, put them down on your CAO before the 1st of February. You can change things and move things around if I'm correct. I'm correct on that, Robin. I'm sorry. You can move things around, but you can't put things in after the 1st of February. So give yourself that option. Isn't that important? Robin, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, just to mention as well, so anyone from Ireland, the UK, the EU, and Switzerland applies via the CAO. If you're from outside the EU, you're considered as an international applicant and you apply directly with us, okay? The deadline of February 1st is exactly the same. All your course choices have to be there by February 1st. You can remove them at a later date, you can move them around, but they have to be there by February 1st.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Robin. Portfolio clinics are going to be running during the midterm break between the 16th of February and also the portfolio deadline is the 10th of March. So that's the deadline for portfolios this year is the 10th of March, which we know isn't that far away. And I'm sure you're thinking about your mocks and everything else. The points, it's up to 600 points for the portfolio, except for the International Film Pathfinder, International Film BA Pathfinder, which is marked out of 1,000 points. It's a slightly different process there because it's a European degree. We can talk about that if there's particular interest in that. If you want us to dig into that. There is also a new mechanism to come in for art and graphic design. So these two specific programs only. Again, during the February midterm, there'll be in-person activities. To basically what you'll do is you'll come in for the day, you'll do some creative activities, and you'll get a portfolio score based on the work you do that day. And you can run with that it's an equivalent to a portfolio score. So you'll be invited to attend. Once the applications are in by February the 1st, admissions will email out to you an invitation to attend one of these workshops if you've applied for art or graphic design. You'll just be invited. You don't have to book it. You'll just be invited to come along. And you'll come in, do some activities, and you'll get a portfolio score just based on the work you did that day. You can bank that, and that can be your portfolio score, and you can still submit a portfolio. But if you're happy with that score, you can work with that and then go from there. So that's worth considering. Just some key dates, obviously. Have a look at the courses, keep in touch with us, visit the website. There's lots of information there. We're going to show you some stuff from the website now in a second. And there's really good guidelines on the website and tips on the website. And you can ask questions through the live chat. The admissions team are very, very helpful. I have to say, Sean and Robin are brilliant for getting back to people with questions and stuff like that. And register for events. So it's really, really important. And to follow us on social media, there's lots of information there. Now, usually at this point in this presentation, I talk about the portfolio submission platform, but today we can actually go through it with you. So I'm going to stop sharing, and John's going to take over for a bit. Let me just stop. I've stopped sharing. Have I stopped sharing? I have. And I'm going to pass over to John Montaigne, who's going to talk you through the platform.
Yeah. So it should look like I'm sharing now, does it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous, and you can all hear me. So, good evening, everyone who's joined us today. You're very welcome. As Ronan said, I work very closely with the admissions team in terms of managing the portfolio website and the use of it and any issues that might arise for you. I mean, over everything here, it's really important to understand that if you've an issue, you can just write an email to admissions@iadt.ie, and most of them are managed very quickly, and we rarely have issues. Obviously, the big warning point to all of you is that you probably shouldn't wait till the 9th of March to log on and to get through all the issues that might be occurring. Be aware that if you tonight or tomorrow set up an account, you can start your portfolio. We don't see it until you press submit, which is your final stuff, but you can upload, you can arrange, you can rewrite. So you can use the platform from today on. You could use it from November on, actually. But so it's there for you. What I'm going to do very quickly is I'm just going to go through the process for any of you. The address by which you can find the website is portfolios.iadt.ie, and you would need to be coming to this with your CAO number. Now, if you're an international student and you don't have a CAO number, you then just put in the number 12345678. It's an 8-digit number. But everybody else within the EU, Switzerland, Ireland, England must have a CAO number to register with this. So in terms of your registering or logging in, you put in the email address that you're going to use if you haven't registered, which I haven't on this account. So I'm going to go through that process. It can take, some people get a little bit panicky. It can take 30 seconds to a minute sometimes to get that security verification. So don't panic if it doesn't come through. It will arrive. And while I'm going off here to see if mine has arrived yet, which it hasn't, Ronan will fill that gap.
Maybe if you stop sharing for a second, I want to share something with everybody that might be on our website. So I'm going to share this other screen. Hopefully you can see Anthea Ring animation portfolio. People can see that, hopefully. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, great. So I'll show you where I found this, but this is an example of a portfolio that was done by an animation student. And it's a PDF, and this will make sense when John goes through the platform. But a lot of the work is, so people ask us often, like, how much work can I put up? Like, you can put up to 25 megs of work, or is it 25 samples and up to 25 megs. But that can be a multi-page PDF. So here, this is Anthea's, and she's given us permission, I hasten to add, to show this. But this is a lot of her work. And this is just drawings. This is just very simply put, was really, really beautiful drawings. And this is observational drawing, lots of observation drawing in different forms. And you can see that what Anthea has done is taken photographs of the work. So obviously this has been done by hand, but using a camera, probably a phone. It's nicely lit. An easy way to light things is, to do it beside a window where there's a light coming from the right or from the left. And then you've just lots of samples, and it's arranged well. It's really easy to see. It's got different, and then there's observational drawing, some character animations, some storyboards. But again, it's for anybody who's got particularly an art and design related portfolio. This is the kind of thing where you have elements of work that's presented on a black background, basically. You can put on a white background, you can put on any sorts of background, you can arrange it. But this is nice and clean. It's very simple. Examples of 3D work, so sculptures, more observational drawing, hands, feet, and then there's links to a YouTube link, which is a show reel, and sketchbooks. So that's one. These are available should you want to look at them. We've a couple. So on our library website, we have our collections, and in there there's our institution repository. So we have a thing called Illustro, which has all sorts of things that people have created. It's all available to be looked at and searched. So you can search through. It has old theses, published works, but in there, if you search for animation portfolios, if I search for portfolio, whoop, no. So we have 3 there, well, actually 4. Well, it's a thesis posted there, but we've 3 portfolio examples that's specifically to animation, but it gives you an idea of layouts and things like that. So that's the kind of PDF that gets uploaded to the platform that John will be talking about. Also, just very quickly while I'm here on the website, if we go to, if I go home and I go to iadt.ie, and if I search for portfolios, so it's our portfolio submission. There's lots of information here. All the dates, the key dates, the guidelines booklet, preparation guide, which is recently done as a really, really good guide, was done by some graduates from the graphic design program, and gives you really good advice on how to put together your portfolio. Oops, I need to get in there. No, I don't. I need to go here. So lots of advice and CAO tips. There's a link to the platform here. There's a video on advice and on how to photograph work. And then there's an FAQ here as well, and all sorts of information. So there's really a lot of information there that you can use. Back to you, John.
Okay, so yeah, so as you can see, my number did arrive in the end, and I put it in, and it brought me to this second page where you need to complete your registration. It's really important, as I say, that your name and your CAO number match, because that really helps us track who you are on the CAO and making sure offers. So make sure that your CAO number is correct. And as I said, if you're an international student or applying for advanced entry and don't have one, then you can just use that number there. Everything else is obviously it's 12 characters in terms of password, but some people kind of don't have passwords normally that are 12 characters, and it requires an uppercase, a lowercase, special character. So it's generally a tricky enough thing. We then go in and complete a registration, and this is where you land. So be aware, as we said earlier, that when you are starting a portfolio submission, you must start one for each course. So as Ronan said, if you're going to use, you can use all of the same graphics and files that you might use for graphic design, then you would apply for art. However, generally some people have, you know, certain work that they might like to forefront, or might like to change the order of, or might like to give more of X and Y to do that. But just to go through the portfolio. So I've clicked on my start my portfolio submission. You then get in your, generally most of you will be coming in through this undergraduate applications, and then you are selecting your course that you're applying for. After that, you're literally going save and next. Now be aware that there's a couple of courses here, like for example, in design for film. So when you go into design for film, we are asking you for your optional or preference towards a desired pathway. Because obviously within design for film, you may have model making, production design, character makeup. It's just useful for us to know what your area of interest is. You're not signing up to anything here in terms of it, but from a portfolio point of view, we can put it in front of the right type of people who would be specialized in those areas. So that course there for the design for film, I don't think. In the other one is the creative music production, where you need to choose your pathway. And there's 2 different pathways to apply for the creative music production, and you select it at that point. But if I just go into graphic design and I say, that's it, and I go save and next, we're now into the section of our portfolio. Now, remember that there's kind of 3 tabs that you need to be aware of. And you have your CV, your personal statement, and your portfolio. Now, your portfolio submission upload is the most important tab. That is where you will upload your files. So if I say, for example, I'm going to take a couple of graphics here, like a JPEG, or these 2, I'll just take that one there, and I press open and upload it. That has gone in there. I can specify, you know, what type of work it is. Is it finished work, or is it, you know, photos, or is it whatever it is? And then I can I can actually write a caption. So you can actually write a small description or title of what the work is, and that will go in there. Obviously, you can do that for multiple elements in terms of that is going into that page there. And then there's also this one here, which is your add a link or video. Now, it's really important that if you're using YouTube or Vimeo or any sort of hosting site, that it can be a private link, but it must be a link that, you know, when you're sharing a link on YouTube, it's that it's open to anyone who clicks the link. So it's not searchable or findable perhaps on YouTube, but it is, if you share the link, we don't need a password, or you don't need to have given us access. Because as Ronan said, there are many people who could look at this. There are certainly always going to be more than one. So, you know, getting them all access. So just make sure it's findable. If I just go to my add a link or video here, I'm going to just go to this page here. So let's imagine you had a shareable link. You would copy it from that, and then you would place that into your URL here, and that would upload that. And as you can see here, you can continue to preview. You can save and close, which now means you're gone away for the day, you're doing something else. You can see that this portfolio, its status is in progress. So we haven't submitted it. So it's really important. There was a couple last year that were in progress, but the student had never submitted them before that deadline. So it's important that when you get to come back to that submission and you're happy with it, that you finally make sure you press the blue purple button there, which is your submit portfolio. Okay. And let me just go back to my home page.
While you're doing that, John, I'm just going to check. Can people get into the chat? Can they? Normally we'd have a few questions by now. Maybe we're answering all the questions and nobody has any questions. But if somebody there on the call wouldn't mind putting in a question or saying hello, it'd be great, because we're just trying to see is the chat enabled, or is that something we need to do? Oh no, that's hello from Roland. Roland, thank you so much. Thank you for confirming. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So as you can see, when you come back here to this page here, that if I want to create another portfolio for another course, I need to go through that process. I need to select what course I'm applying for. I need to make sure it's ready to go there, and then save and next. So I won't do this one, but if I go back to save and close, you can now see that I have two portfolios that are both in progress, that are for different courses. Okay. So when you get to that kind of final point, sorry, I'll just open up. I wanted to just, your CV, obviously, you know, we're looking for a kind of broad understanding to support your kind of portfolio. So but it is around, you know, your creative and technical experience, and maybe your education, and maybe other courses that you might have done, or summer camps, or whatever you might have done that we would think would be something that would help us kind of assess your suitability, your things around your key strengths, your personal statement, which is us really trying to understand why you've applied for the course. Tell us a little about why you enjoyed the discipline. And you can see the 4 questions are there. Some people have a choice of writing. We also allow people that they might want to do a piece to camera. So a small video piece. It doesn't have to be very long. It's just a little piece that kind of gets us to kind of understand the type of person you are, what your interests are. And if you don't want to write it, or you struggle with writing, or don't have that time, you know, it's very easy with phones and technology at the moment to be able to do a small piece to camera, and you can explain that to us. So they are the 2 other pieces that go with this. So there's no reason why your CV can't be prepared in the next, you know, couple of weeks. And your portfolio then can be something you can do over the next few weeks, and you can tweak it and move it around. the one thing that's kind of useful to know is that the order in which you put stuff up can be changed afterwards. So if you want to top line some pieces of work, then by clicking that button in the top left-hand corner of each of them, you're kind of swapping, so you can move stuff up and down a kind of stack. So it's all there. Is there anything else that would be there's some pictures coming in. So just in terms of your type of work, we did mention JPEGs and PDFs. Be aware that JPEGs can only be one image. So you can't have multi-page JPEGs. They're just one image. What's really nice sometimes is that if you have a final piece of work, but you also have maybe a notebook around the project or so on, you've a couple of options. You could create a video of you with your notebook lying on the table with you flicking between it, and maybe even narrating some of the work and saying, you know, at this point I was doing this, and you could upload that as a video, but that might be, you know, 20 images because you keep changing the pages. Or you could take photographs and create a PDF, which is a multi-page PDF showing your process. Because as Ronan said, sometimes the final piece don't tell us the whole story about how you got there or what the project was about or where the challenges were for you. So it's okay to kind of say, you know, I'm going to submit a PDF that has 10 pages. That is one document. It's one piece. And you probably would need to work out how to do that. I know that if you have some sort of PDF editor like Acrobat on your computer, you can add multiple JPEGs and it'll output it as one PDF. So that can be really useful. Sorry, Ronan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm going to come to some questions, but I was just saying you could create a PowerPoint or a slideshow and then export it as a PDF is another option where you can sort of arrange the work. There's just some questions coming in. I just thought we'd try and catch up on that. And I know Rob and Sean are answering them, but the question here from Anika about, does it have to be private? It doesn't have to be private. We advise it to be private because it's much easier to view because it doesn't have ads then. So it makes, but it doesn't have to be private, but it really does help if you do. When viewing the portfolios, do you watch the film portfolios in full length? What we do is we promise we'll watch up to 10 minutes of content. We try and watch one full film in full. But the idea is that, you know, we're getting what's much more interesting to us is the story rather than show reels. So show reels help, particularly if you're interested in editing or cinematography. But we do promise we'll watch one as best we can. But it's bearing in mind that we're going through about 150 of them, so that's part of the challenge. And the 2 people will actually watch it as part of the thing. Do we upload our portfolio as separate pages or multi-page PDF? So as John was just saying there, it can be either. Part of it is if there's particular images that you're really proud of that you want to upload a high-res JPEG or higher res JPEG, you could do that. But often it's a collection of work arranged as a PDF. I don't think the PDF should get too long or too busy. Again, you're trying to help the reader or the assessor. So grouping things together in a way that's logical in one PDF, I think, is a good idea. So if there's a particular collection of work, or like all your life drawings are in one, or your observation drawing is in one or in another. Next question is there from Joe. If I have a slideshow for my portfolio with various works as video links attached to the slideshow, do I need to upload them as separate files in the portfolio submission upload as well? Thanks. That's a hard question to answer. So I've come across where you get a slideshow and there's lots of links to the slideshow and the links don't work. I've had that a few times. So like, bear in mind, you want to make sure that we definitely see the work. So I would do both, or do 3 things. I would include the links, I include a PDF with all my links. You know, that's how my brain works, where I'd be terrified that something wouldn't work. So I make sure that there's multiple options. We're not going to penalize you because you're keen. So it's, you know, I think those slideshows, but particularly links to, we get that sometimes you get a link to a Google slideshow somewhere else, and then it doesn't, for some reason the click-through links don't work. So, you know, just watch out for that because it can be problematic. So it's hard to answer that. I don't know, John, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, well, I was just about to answer some other question, which is around, somebody asked there what counts as a single piece of work. Again, but whenever I hear that question, I'm thinking that people are struggling to curate their work. Yeah, and they're trying to go, I have 50 pieces, will I put them all up? So the answer to your question is a single piece of work could be one PDF, and that PDF could have
50 images.
could be in a notebook. It could have 10 pieces in it. So that it is 10, it's number of files really upload. But what you want to be able to do is you need to curate your work in such a way, because we are going through 1,200 portfolios. So when we go through those portfolios and we give, you want to be able to make sure that you have extracted towards the front the important pieces that are really, bringing you in, and parts that are process and maybe secondary, or maybe done as a PDF or a movie or a film. So you really need to learn, we all need to learn to curate what's important, and that putting up too much could be a problem. But putting up too little, it can also be. So it's a matter of trying to work out, where is my best work? How do I want to present that? And strategically thinking about how to do that. And that's why we're having chats on the 14th of January, because it allows you to go, okay, these are my 10 major pieces, and this is how I'm going to show them. And the rest I can show at the bottom of the page if I have it, and so on. Yeah. But yeah,
Sorry.
go on.
No, just because I was going to jump on, but you want to finish? Or?
No.
Yeah. So Roland has a question there. Does the size of the sketchbook matter? It doesn't matter. No. How you present it then is up for grabs. So as John described a minute ago, a thing you can do is where you hold your camera up over the item, over the sketchbook, and leaf through the pages and show us the work, and you can talk as you go through it. Like there's an example, perfect example there that John has. And it's nicely lit. It's very clear. It's against a clean white background, so I can see that really, really easily. And we get through it. If there's particular pages that you say, no, this I really like, well, maybe you might scan that one page and put that in as well. So that's okay to do as well. So but this tells me, just looking at it, just from here, looking at that, and I have no idea who this person is, but this is somebody who's really passionate about their work. They're doing loads of sketches. They're doing lots of different bits and pieces. And they're trying different things. And thanks for watching. Clever little thing. So these are the little things that make you stand out. For advanced entry route, I know that the portfolio deadline is May 1st. Will the online portfolio platform remain open until then for advanced entries? It will reopen, or have a new? You're better at explaining that than I, John. There'll be a whole new section for doing advanced entries at that point, won't there?
It'll stay open. So it's open from now, and then the submission category for the standard portfolio will close after the 10th of March, leaving only advanced entry and then the tertiary program. And I also just want to come in, guys, try not to focus too much on the number of pieces. The judges looking at your portfolio are not counting how many pieces you have. All they want to see is the best reflection of your work, of your creativity. You can have as many pieces as you want, but the best thing to do, and they said it in the television spotlight session yesterday, is if you have a contents page, or if you want to direct the judges to particular pages, or if you have a 20-minute film, absolutely include that. But if there's 3 or 4 minutes that you're really proud of, tell them to look at that. So you can include as many pieces as the system allows you to do. But if there are very particular pieces that you're proud of, that you think are a good reflection of your creativity, or that you don't like and that you'd rather have done something differently, you have to tell the judges, because they won't know that. So you can put lots of pieces in. No one is counting, okay, this person only has 9 pieces, we're not going to score them. Just make sure at the end of the day when you submit that you are happy that it's a reflection of your work and your creativity. So don't be bogged down with the piece numbers, the types of files. As long as the program team, when they look at your portfolio, can see enough to gauge who you are, what you like, and what you've created, that is enough.
Yeah, and just as a note, I would probably start with what I would call a kind of table of contents, and that maybe over the next couple of weeks you sit down and you write a list on paper about your 8 projects, and what's the few pieces of work you want to show in that project, how are you going to show it, And you could actually give us one of your first document could be a table of contents saying, these are the 4 projects I've demonstrated, and these are the pieces of work that are in them. So it allows us to see your structure, the division, what you were doing. Was it, physical? Was it print? Was it, film? So just literally sitting down and curating and deciding what is best and how is it best to demonstrate it. Yeah.
Curation is really important because it shows the choices you're making. Like it's as Robin said, it's not about quantity. It's really about quality and process. It's about you demonstrating your interests, your passion, and the choices you make. I mean, I've come across portfolios where there's holiday snaps and holiday pictures and pictures of their pets, and they're all lovely, and and really we love the fact that you love your dog, but that doesn't tell us much about your creativity or your ability. It actually tells me that you don't really have a sensibility around the curation of the work, like that it's about the key pieces of work that you're focused on. I mean, some people are asking, should I sketchbook or not, or certain pages or not? You can do both. If there's particular pieces in the sketchbook that you're proud of, the sketchbook as a piece in itself talks more about the depth of your passion and the amount of time and engagement you are, and the fact that you are actually keeping a sketchbook is itself a really good sign, and that's the important bit.
Yeah, and just to show you how we see it from a lecturer's or from a assessor's point of view, is that when you are adding your pieces and ordering them and sorting them, if you go to the preview, this is what we see when we are correcting it. Okay, we see, and you can see in my case there that image that I put a caption in here to say, this is a piece from my Leaving Cert portfolio or whatever it is. So when we go in here, that piece of text appears here. Your files, the order in which you can see my link to YouTube. So that is what our assessors see. So they don't actually see that page, which is a little bit more messy and so on. So just to be aware of that. Okay.
Again, a question around what counts as a single piece of work. That there's no answer to that really, because again, it's more about the uploads and the amount of uploads. But any one piece of work can be. Think of it as like, I mean, there's the finished piece, whether it's a sculpture or a costume or a film or whatever it is. But there's material that goes around it, the supporting material, your explanations, there's the labels. So that's all. So there's multiple bits that can go with it, and you're thinking about the presentation of your work as much as anything else.
The question there, Ronan, which I think it's a tricky one to answer. You might answer it around, what do judges want to see in an animation portfolio if the student has no previous animation work to submit?
So observational drawing. Like it's the key thing. Life drawing is hard to do because you need models and things like that. So it's observational drawing, the world around you, still life, things, people, hands, feet, like that portfolio. I don't know if you were there earlier. There's some samples of specifically animation portfolios on the library website. But it's drawing ability, core. It's the key thing, and that applies to a lot of programs. Observational drawing is really important for graphic design. It's really important for design for film. It's really important for art, obviously, because observational drawing is more about your drawing ability, your technical ability, but it's your interest in drawing, and it's your ability to observe the world around you and your interest in the world, because it's that curiosity. Are you interested in the little things, the big things, the landscapes, whatever it might be? What are you passionate about? Yeah. There's a question there from Anika again. Can we submit a whole animation that is around 2 or 3 minutes and a showreel? Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like we don't put any prescription. I mean, there is some guidelines there for each of the programs. So there's certain things we do want. We're not looking for music, for example, for animation. But if you did an animation where you're really proud of the music you put on it and the sound on it, that's interesting, because It shows you're thinking not just about in pictures, but you're also thinking in sound. So like there's no rules or magic formula. I wish there's multiple ways of doing this and approaching this. So you have to be true to yourself. That's the most important thing, because if you're trying to guess or second guess, then you'll just tie yourself up in knots. And I know this is really hard, and I appreciate that this is challenging. But if you're true to yourself, then I don't think you'll go wrong ultimately.
No, and it's also really, like 600 points. We know how hard it is to, get 600 points in your leaving cert, and how hard you work for every point within this next year. But, there's 600 points going for the portfolio here. And, every effort in terms of trying to present your best version. And we do give 600s. There are plenty of students who get 600 points, who get above 500. So it is really achievable. So you should give it a bit of time and a bit of consideration in terms of, if you want to do one of those courses, it is totally doable and manageable. The other thing to point out, which we say at all these talks, is that there are certain courses, obviously, that are harder to get into. And we give the example around the film and television courses, both super courses, both using similar facilities, and obviously film. If you're applying for film, you should probably have television in underneath it, because if you don't get it, you're going to get your second offer perhaps, and so on. So I would be very clear that if there are other courses in the institute that you would be willing to do if you didn't get your first choice, then you should add them to the list. And it's very important you do that before the 1st of February, and that's all you got to do is stick it on the 9th or 10th choice of your CAO. It doesn't matter. Once it's on that list of 10, we then get notification, and then you're in the system from then. So certainly film and TV are two pairings. I know Ronan would probably have other ones that might be useful to think about.
I'm a great. There's obviously animation and 3D animation. People seem to think that 3D animation is more I don't know really the perception. 3D animation, there's lots of jobs in 3D animation. There's lots of careers available, and a lot of it's more digital than the generalist animation degree, but they do a lot of the same things, similar kinds of work, similar levels of creativity and imagination and enjoyment, and similar kind of environment and culture. And it's really, some of the work that the students are producing is fantastic. Like, so, it's, if you're keen to work in animation or be an animator, it's as viable an option as DL 832, the existing degree. But then there's also photography, which is one I keep trooping on about. It is easier to get into, there's less demand, that's why the points are lower. But a lot of the best cinematographers and editors and people who've worked in the film industry started out life as photographers. Roger Deakins is a classic example of cinematographer who started out as a photographer. So, there's different roads. I'm kind of been saying this anecdote for anyone who comes to my talks. I always give this anecdote of the fact that I did archaeology and Irish folklore and ended up working in television. So, you don't know where life is going to take you. You really don't. Your degree doesn't necessarily define you. The Leaving Cert doesn't necessarily define you. So I know it's hard to say at this moment in time when you're in the thick of all this. But I think if you get into IDT, that we end up working across and between programs, and game design is another option for those interested in animation, and that doesn't need a portfolio. So there's different things going on. So there's different options. There's a question there I just want to address. Connor Siri asked, should a film be certain length? No, there's no such thing as a length for certain films. Films can be 3 minutes, 1 minute, and 97 minutes or longer. We've 6-hour films out there if you want them.
Jordan Gaynor there has, just to be clear, Jordan, great tip about observational drawings, but wondering if you'd like to see character designs. Absolutely. Stylized drawings. Absolutely. Like, this is sometimes people get, when that question earlier was around if they haven't done any form of animation work, what would be the parts of work that would relate? And clearly observational drawings is one of them. But if you've done any sketches around characters, if you've done any cartoons, any stylized comic material in notebooks, and that is huge, really important. But I mean, the observational drawings in addition to them show a broader set of skills. Okay, because the type of skills that are required for kind of cartoon graphic would be very different to observational drawings. So they're useful to see in combination.
And I'd stress as well, just original characters as well. Like imitations or like your Pokemon drawings, things like that are lovely to see and show a capacity for drawing. But that's imitation and is not as strong as you trying to create your own characters or invent your own characters or invent your own worlds or invent your own environments and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Tom, in relation to a film or a project that you might have been involved with as a group, or two of you, or five of you. It's really important that it is clear and obvious to the assessors what role you played in that project. Okay. And that, you know, and therefore, if you're being completely open and honest about that position in the project and what your job was and what you did, then that's perfectly valid. Obviously, you know, group work is hugely important in the likes of film and many of the courses, in fairness to it. So yes, but you need to be really, really clear about that role.
And what if there's multiple links inside your portfolio? Which link do you use that's attached to the portfolio submission? We'll use any link we can see. Like it's not we don't choose links. It's kind of you point us in the direction of where we should be going, I suppose is the key thing there. But yeah, I think Sean has good advice there. Putting all the relevant links to your portfolio documents so the judges can see them all. I mean, I tend to panic a little bit, so I would have them in a couple of places, but that's just me. I'd make sure that, you know, if there's really important, even links in the table of contents, like, you know, this is please look at this first. You know, so people do that with the table of contents where they rank the stuff in terms of this, you know, and again, that's part of the curation process.
I think that's there's a question there coming in called, can I submit a film that I shadowed a cinematographer in? I think we got asked something similar before in the last open day. My answer to that would be broadly no, but I would include in my document, in my personal statement, that I have worked with shadowed cinematographers and really enjoyed that experience and had an opportunity to be part of an aid on the set, and all of that kind of stuff is really important for us to understand your interest in the topic area and the amount of desire you have for it. You can't really put it in as a piece of work because you weren't part of that creative process or that production or that making. Is that fair enough, Ronan? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. Like, there's no real point in including that film, but you know, if there's a photograph of you on set being, you know, or something, you can build a little story around it, or if you really learned something from it, if there's some particular, you know, that this is when you decided you wanted to be a cinematographer because you got to do this, and this. I can't. It depends on the context, but no, I wouldn't include the film as the key thing. It's more about, as John described, it's almost like this. It shows that you really, you know, you've gone to the bother of shadowing a cinematographer, and that in itself is really interesting.
There's a question there about whether a student is off by a few points. So to be very clear, I don't really understand the question, like off by 8 points and we might like let you in. So obviously that's not the way it works. It's not the way the CAO works. It's not the way the systems work. Obviously there is an appeal mechanism, I believe, in terms of portfolios. It's fairly rarely actioned. But in terms of being off by a few points, like if you're off by a few points, then you don't get accepted. It's black and white.
I can explain it a little bit more in detail, and I'll put it in the chat as well. So when you see the published points on our website and on the CAO, what that's telling you is that is the last person who was offered a place, meaning that everybody else got either those points or above that. Now, the only way that someone might have gotten an offer if their points otherwise wouldn't have given them an offer is if they're a here and there student, they may get a reduced points offer. But if you see a point and it says, let's say 870 or 894, that's telling you If there's 50 places, that's the 50th person who got offered a place. So everybody else either got the same points or higher. So when you look at the published points, that means there is nobody on the program who has less points than that. And those points are only calculated by the applicants. So that just means that in that year, that's the last person who was offered a place. And that's why it can change from any one year to the next. Like John said, you can appeal your portfolio score. Now you'll get your portfolio score well before the CAO offers come out or the international offers come out. You can appeal that score, but we'll never know how the points are going to end up being until the offers come out. So I wouldn't focus too much on that, but it can give you an idea. If you look at the points over the last 4 or 5 years, it'll show you, first of all, the minimum points required, and also how much they range from one year to the next. They can go up or down by 100, 200, but there's no way of really knowing until the offers go out. But if you're below the minimum points, then no, you won't be made an offer.
Yeah.
So I'm just scanning some of the last few questions. I know Robin and Sean are answering them as we go, so thanks a million for that. Point about observation drawing. There's the animation talk is tomorrow, so well worth going to that. But please do also go to the 3D animation talk and just get a sense of that program as well. Preferences, we never see the preferences. We have no idea where you come. It's just your portfolio. We're just judging the work. It's about the work, and that's really it. Yeah, it's important that we get a sense of what your role was in any project. A lot of projects are collaborative. Like it's hard not to work in the world and not be working with other people. So that's just so we're clear on what everyone's role was in all of these things.
There's a question there about graphic design and how much work should you submit that's digital versus traditional. So really, again, it's a difficult question. We would love to be able to see both, okay? Because traditional work allows you to demonstrate craft. It allows to demonstrate drawing skill or thinking skills, or even making skills. So all of those skills are really important. Digital sometimes can be just very flat, and it may not tell the whole project. So certainly I would be encouraging as much of both types of styles if you do have digital work. But if you have digital work, it might be also really important to show the traditional process you got to make that digital. So if you designed a logo in Photoshop or Illustrator or a set of business cards or whatever you'd done, it's important that you've maybe shown some of your sketch work, some of your thought work, some of your ideas, and that might be very much in a traditional form. So that's how I'd answer that.
There's a question there, when would we find out our portfolio score? Just to remind people that they're for graphic design, just seeing as we're talking about that, and art, there will be the portfolio workshop, which will be taking place during the February, the midterm break. You'll get invited to those as a matter of course. If you've put the programs down on your CAO, you'll be invited after the February the 1st to attend. And you can, if you want to, do that day and there'll be a series of creative works that you'll have to create on the day in person here on campus in IDT. And you'll get a portfolio score based on the work you do that day. And if you're happy with that, you can bank it and just move on and go on and focus on whatever exams you're doing. Or you can still submit a portfolio as well. And whichever of the two or the greater score, you can go with either. You will automatically go with those, sorry. You'll find out about portfolio scores, I'm going to say, like a few weeks after the Easter break, basically. As soon as we can, we'll get them to you. We can't commit exactly because we have to go through several processes. There's a big load of them to get through and all the rest of it and input them into the system. But we'll be hoping to get them out as soon as we can after the Easter break.
There's a system asked there. There's a question asked about what separates 600 points from 500 points from 550 to 400. So we have a system of marking that breaks into 4 categories. And each of those categories are 150 points each. I don't have those categories straight in front of me, but
I'm pulling it up here now.
You might pull it up.
Yeah.
And we mark whatever out of those, each of those categories, 150 points, and that's where your value for your 600 comes from. And we generally have 2 judges, so there are 2 people marking, and it would be generally fairly aligned, or there would be averages used between those. So it's fairly accurate in terms of how you separate those. Have you got that?
Yeah, I was going to share a screen. I think it'd be the easiest thing. So if you remember earlier, I showed you, we mentioned the portfolio website. So here there's two booklets, there's two links to the PDFs, the IDT Portfolio Guidelines booklet and the preparation guide. So the portfolio, sorry, my link is hidden under there, my tab, sorry. Yeah. This one, the portfolio guide. This is a guide to helping you create the portfolio. But this one, which is our guidelines, so this is a PDF and has information, so much information on all the programs, the specific requirements for each of the programs. But if we slip down to the end of this booklet, right down to the bottom. So here we go. So there's portfolios are scored out of 600, except for Pathfinder, which is 1000. But there's 4 categories: creative research and the development of ideas, technical ability, presentation, use of media, and course specificity. So they're each scored out of 150, usually in multiples of 25 or 50. And this gives you an idea of like the kind of rubric, if you like, that we're using, and how the scores are worked out. So have a look at the guideline, and the score is built out of, if you get your portfolio score of 350 or whatever, and you get 400 in your FETAC QQI points, your portfolio score is added to your portfolio score, and then that's your total points there. All right, but it's there on the IDT website. Portfolios all here, IDT.ie. Just search portfolio on the IDT website, and you'll get there. And again, it has all the dates, all the booklets and the guides, and then it has a link to the digital portfolio platform as well that John was showing you earlier. Okay. I think that's us. I don't know. There's lots of questions coming through there. Any what does CV need? There's Robin's already answered that. There's actually a template there on the platform that you can use, the Europass template that you can use for your portfolio. I think we'll wrap it up there. We've covered an awful lot. This has been recorded, so there'll be a link so you can watch it back to your heart's content, if that helps. And Robin and Sean are at the end of the email as well. So if there's any questions you might have after the fact. Well, last minute question for Camilla. Are you more likely to lose marks? There's no such thing as losing marks. Adding extra work you've done that might be worse. Where am I going? In quality. Additionally, with the high quality work that you add. You're not going to lose marks. No, I mean, it's more, again, but this is all about the curation. We've talked about this a little bit today. It's about your choices are really, really important. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. There's other talks for specific programs. Please look at the schedule of talks that are on the website, and you'll get more insights from all of those. We'll also have portfolio clinics, those portfolio workshops for art and graphic design. And the deadline, of course, is 1st of February. Please make sure you get into 1st of February and put down as many programs as you think you might be interested in. That doesn't mean you have to do them. You can take them off after, but you can't put them in after the 1st of February. And the deadline for portfolios is the 10th of March. I think that's everything. Thank you so much to John, Robin and Sean. We leave it there.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care. Remember,
Bye.
admissions@iadt.ie if you have any questions on